My politics was always about wanting to serve, do something constructive, offer constructive suggestions to the government. And that was the crux of my speech last week. And that will be the crux of my involvement in Parliament, inside the House, outside the House, in different forums that become available to an MP going forward. I've always believed that Mumbai, which is the city I've represented and the city I belong to, is one of the largest cities in the country, in the world. But Mumbai has a national flavor. I always say, what happens in Mumbai today will happen in India tomorrow. How do people see Mr. Shinde's accessible, hard-working style of leadership as compared to previous chief ministers? And that's a comparison I'm sure people will make in the months ahead. This is, a competitive world, and Prime Minister has been very supportive of Maharashtra in the last 10 years. And we certainly need more investment, more central support to make Maharashtra even more robust.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Statesman Talk with me, Deepti J. Verma. Today we are being joined by Milind Deora, who's currently the Member of Parliament in Rajya Sabha. He was one of the youngest MPs to be elected to the Lok Sabha at 27 in 2004, and he's held many ministries since then, communications, information and shipping. He also belongs to a great political legacy. His father, Milind Deora ji, was a cabinet minister as well. He had an illustrious career, a mayor of Bombay. And today he's joined Parliament back again after 10 years, and his maiden speech was highly popular. Thank you for joining us, Milind. Thank you for joining us today. Our first question to you would be about leaving the Congress, and now you are part of a regional outfit like the Shiv Sena by Eknath Shinde. So do you think there's a big change in leaving a national party and joining a regional outfit?
Well, firstly, thank you for having me. Firstly, I'm back in Parliament after a decade.
How does that feel?
Feels very good. Of course, it's a new building. It's a new set of people. It's a new house. There's a very different vibe, a very different, energy level between the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha. But it's good to be back in Parliament to be able to contribute.
What is the difference in the, if you could
Well,
explain?
the Lok Sabha is, the Lok Sabha firstly is, there are 545 MPs.
45, yeah.
And there are 250 MPs in the Rajya Sabha. So it's about half the size of the Lok Sabha. Secondly, the Lok Sabha MPs are elected directly by the people of a constituency. The Rajya Sabha elections essentially are through an indirect election. But both have similar powers. And both give you the ability
to communicate,
to represent a constituency, which could be a state, could be a constituency that you may have represented in the past, to speak on behalf of India.
Yeah.
So it's in many ways different, but in many ways it's also similar, because I think a lot of people...
So accountability is the same?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a similar, there's a speaker, and there are similar rules in terms of how you can intervene. But I think what happens is, when you're a Rajya Sabha MP, typically the number of people who, for example, now P.T. Usha, who's a famous athlete, she's a member of the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha has a mixed set of members, many of whom are people who've never contested a Lok Sabha election. For those of us who fought...
But they're achievers from all walks of life.
They could be achievers from different walks of life. For those of us who fought Lok Sabha elections and are in the Rajya Sabha, which is a vast majority also, or who are political, you can still perform your political duties. I can continue to serve South Mumbai by being a Rajya Sabha MP.
Okay.
Even though I don't have one particular constituency technically. I'm technically a member of Parliament for all of Maharashtra. So it's not very different. And my politics was always about wanting to serve, do something constructive, offer constructive suggestions to the government. And that was the crux of my speech last week, and that will be the crux of my involvement in Parliament, inside the House, outside the House, in the constituency, in different forums that become available to an MP going forward.
What do you have to say about the performance of your alliance in the Lok Sabha?
I'm sorry, I didn't answer your earlier question. You asked me a supplementary question.
About leaving the national party.
No, the difference between a national party and a regional party, look, when you're a regional party, if you're part of a national alliance, you automatically have a perspective that is national, you automatically are able to represent not just your state if you belong to a regional party, but the larger national ambition. So I don't see much of a difference. Yes, a national party means your headquarters was Delhi.
Yeah.
So when you would come for parliament, you would also have party duties. A regional party means your party is probably from the state which you belong to. So your involvement in Delhi, my involvement in Delhi going forward will probably be limited to parliament and parliamentary committees.
And your interest, your political interest would be, you think, more localized?
No, both.
No.
I continue to have, I believe, look, I've always believed that Mumbai, which is the city I've represented and the city I belong to, is one of the largest cities in the country, in the world. But Mumbai has a national flavor. What happens, I always say, what happens in Mumbai today will happen in India tomorrow. And so raising Mumbai's voice in Delhi could be in parliament, could be in committees, could be through other forums. That will continue to be a focus area for me.
What do you think of the performance of the outfit in the current, the elections that just went by?
Which outfit?
The Eknath Shinde outfit.
Very good. I mean, better than expected, better than many pollsters predicted. People were giving this party, were expecting the party to win 2 to 3 seats out of the 15 it contested. It won 7. Its nearest rival, which is the UBT, Shiv Sena, it had a much better strike rate than they did.
Okay.
So in that sense, I think Mr. Shinde has demonstrated his ability to provide electoral victories in areas that were very difficult. It was a difficult alliance to compete against, where all parties, really all the parties that were otherwise don't see eye to eye, came together. He still managed to win many seats. So I think it was certainly a good performance, better than expected performance. There's still a lot of room to grow, still a lot of room to do better.
And going forward in for the assembly elections,
well,
what do you think you will do differently? How are you approaching the?
Yeah, I think the assembly election will be different because this was the Lok Sabha election was a national mandate. Who do people want as the Prime Minister? The Vidhan Sabha elections should be in October, and that will be more about how Maharashtra has performed in the last few years. Mr. Shinde has been Chief Minister for exactly 2 years. And recently, in fact, the economic survey that just came out 2 days ago said that contrary to how people are spinning it, that Maharashtra is losing business to Gujarat, Maharashtra has performed much better than Gujarat in almost every parameter. Its GSDP, which is like the state GDP, has grown, is one of the fastest growing states in the country. Its GDP is growing faster than Gujarat. Its per capita income is growing faster than Gujarat. It's creating more manufacturing jobs as compared to other states. So Maharashtra has a lot going for it. And I think we are reclaiming our position as India's #1 industrial state.
And again, coming back to the UBT, you said, how do you see them as opponents? Do you think they're a formidable opponent going forward? They performed decently well in the elections that just happened.
Again, I don't think their strike rate was not as good as our strike rate. Are they a formidable opponent? Every opponent's a formidable opponent.
Yeah.
But there is a very stark contrast in the leadership style, and that is something that will be brought to the people of Maharashtra in the months ahead. How do people see Mr. Shinde's accessible, hard-working style of leadership as compared to previous chief ministers? That's a comparison that people are beginning to make, and that's a comparison I'm sure people will make in the months ahead. He's someone who works extremely hard. He's someone who's a 24/7 politician. He's someone who is not afraid to take risks that are for the benefit of Mumbai and Maharashtra. He's very clear about wanting to attract investments to the state. He's very clear about wanting Maharashtra to re-establish its role as the economic industrial engine of the state.
Yeah.
And I saw him operating, even in Davos, very, very clear about cutting through bureaucracy, red tapeism, getting people, getting investments into the state. This is, a competitive world, and foreign investors, when they come to India, when they come to Maharashtra, they have many choices before them. Not just in the country of India. They have choices in the world.
Yeah.
They can say, I want to be in India, or I can be in Vietnam, or I can be in Bangladesh, and these are realities we as a country have to come to terms with.
Yeah.
When they come to India and they say, okay, I want to be in India because of, let's say, GST, even then they have choices. We can go to Telangana, we can go to Maharashtra, we can go to some other part of India. Northeast states are offering many incentives. So they're offering land at concessional rates. There is evacuation, infrastructure. So it's a good thing that we have this kind of competitive federalism in India. And I think Mr. Shinde is someone who's taking advantage of that. Many states are losing out because of that, because the leadership is unable to compete with a more competitive state or a more competitive leader in that state. I think he's somebody who believes that no, we have to do whatever we can to restore Maharashtra's profile as a top performing industrial state. He's demonstrated that. The economic survey has clearly proven that, debunked any myths. And this is government data. This is not some third party data. And going forward, I think these are the things that will be put before the people. But ultimately, regardless of what happens, my only hope is that whoever comes to power in India or in the state, Maharashtra has a lot to offer. And I always tell people, especially in a city like Mumbai, that gone are the days when our competition is Delhi or Bangalore, Bengaluru or Chennai or even Pune. Now our competition from a financial point of view is Dubai, it's Singapore.
Yeah.
And if we apply that vision and we have that foresight and that ambition, then we can achieve things at an international scale.
You know, your bio both on Twitter and Instagram says that you believe in politics of pragmatism and progress, and from what you're saying also. But do you think that the environment that we live in, environment of coalitions, and now it started again, does it interfere with that vision?
See, politics in many ways is the heart and soul of governance, whether you like it or not. And politics is a good thing. Politics is a way of going to the people and letting the people determine and decide, especially in a democracy. Yes, does politics get in the way sometimes
of progress?
Of governance?
Governance, yeah.
I would say it can. Sometimes the right decision is not the right decision economically for the common man, is in the long run is not necessarily the right political decision for them in the short run or for the party implementing that decision. So every politician in any democracy around the world has to walk that fine line. How do I communicate to the public that what I'm doing might be a bitter pill you have to swallow, but it's a pill which will make you better. And then there are politicians who will say, no, you should only have a sweet pill.
Yeah.
That sweet pill is sugar.
Handouts.
Sugar will make you sick.
Yeah.
So that sometimes takes courage. It takes good communication skills to tell the public that you have to think long term, and I have your long-term interests in mind.
But for poor countries, sometimes that becomes tough.
It does, but especially in a poorer country, especially in a developing country, you need to think long term. You need to generate wealth to spread wealth. If you are not generating enough wealth, if you are not growing your economy fast enough, you will not have anything in your pocket to spend. Then you eventually, where do you get money to give, to help people, to cushion people who are fighting, let's say, rising prices? How do you give money into their bank accounts, those who are needy? You don't have the ability to do that. Then you have to borrow money. And you borrow money from other agencies. Then you get stuck in a loan trap, a debt trap. And then often the expenditure in many countries, like in Pakistan, I think 70 or 80% of the expenditure is to repay the interest.
Yeah, the interest.
Just the interest annually. So it's very important for politicians to practice fiscal prudence. But a politician doesn't always think about that. Politician is like, abhi main power mein hu.
Yeah.
Empty out the coffers and let the next person come in and they'll deal with a bankrupt state. That's not always in the long-term interest of the people of that state.
And when talking of wealth creators, the opposition often accuses the BJP especially of, promoting the Adanis and Ambanis and concentrating that wealth. Do you think we should have more wealth creators in the country, or you think it's fine that this trickles down?
No, we have to have more wealth creators. You have to broaden the base. You have to allow for more entrepreneurship. You have to prevent rent seeking as a policy. No doubt about all those things. But you have to remember that inequalities are not ideal, and nobody wants inequalities of income. Nobody wants inequalities of wealth, that the rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. Nobody wants that.
Yeah.
But it's still a better system than everyone being poor, which is, let's say, socialism. So I'm not, for example, a believer that capitalism is a great system. But I think that capitalism with a social security net, which shields, cushions the poor and the needy, is certainly better than a socialistic system where a government is basically bankrupt.
Yeah.
Someone rightly said that, capitalism is the unequal distribution of wealth. Socialism is the equal distribution of poverty.
Poverty, yeah.
And so nothing is perfect, but you have to have a little mix. And I don't think there's any purely capitalist society in this world. There's the countries that are purely socialistic have failed, have collapsed. In fact, you can't call China or Russia socialistic anymore. You certainly can't call India socialistic anymore. But you can't call any country capitalistic, purely capitalistic either.
America?
No, you can't call America capitalistic. America has social security. America has Amtrak, which is their train. It's subsidized by the taxpayer. That on its own means you're not capitalistic. You're not fully capitalistic. So I don't think any country will say pure capitalism is the right model.
The right model.
But I think what's very clear is that you need a mix of capitalism and some social sector initiatives. But certainly that combination, I mean, I don't think there's any debate in this world that combination certainly trumps and lasts longer than pure socialism. That's a failed model around the world. It's an unsustainable model.
Talking of coalitions, obviously the NDA now is, for the first time after 10 years, they have a solid coalition. Do you think it will interfere with the way the Prime Minister functions or, the way the government has functioned before?
I don't think so. I don't think that, this is still the strongest coalition India has had probably ever. I don't think India
as a combination.
I don't think India I don't think the anchor party
has had that many
has been
seats.
as strong. The last time, for instance, that the Congress got the number that BJP has got today after 10 years of being in power was in 1991 when there were 3 phases in that election. And I remember in the first phase, Congress was actually performing very poorly, and then the late Rajiv Gandhi was tragically assassinated. And subsequent to his assassination, Congress picked up some seats. So the last time, so BJP's best performance, a worst performance after 10 years,
is better than their
is technically Congress's best performance in 33 years. So it's still a stable government. It's still a strong government. I don't see any reason for anyone, whether you're a politician or an investor, to worry about that. But certainly coalitions, in my opinion, also bring democratic spirit back, and they bring
more dialogue,
more consultation, and that's good for our democracy. That's good for governance. So I think a strong coalition government. I've always been a firm believer. A strong coalition government with a strong constructive opposition is the best thing that can happen to India. I would say today we have a strong coalition government. We have a strong opposition. Whether they are constructive or not remains to be seen.
You left the Congress party earlier, and their performance this time was slightly better than what they've been doing. What are your views on that? Do you think the party is getting its act together, or do you still you still stick to your opinion?
I'm nobody to really now
comment on that.
Guide them. I will only say that they've certainly done better than 52 seats. Is it something to be pat yourself on the back and say, well done, we've arrived? If I was the Congress, I would not be happy with that performance. I would still say there's tremendous work that needs to be done. And as I said, I do believe that the Congress has a rich legacy in this country. I'm not going to lie and deny that. I think the Congress has done.
You've been part of that legacy also.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the Congress has done good things for India. It's taken India forward in many ways over many decades. Certainly, there have been big mistakes which were regrettable. And I think Congress should, my advice would be build on that legacy, be constructive. The country has given you a chance to be an opposition. The country has not given Congress a chance to come back to power for 15 years. Now the country will judge the Congress based on its performance as an opposition.
As an opposition.
And so that would be my limited advice.
And your view of Rahul Gandhi's speech, his first speech as the leader of
I have to
opposition?
admit I didn't see it. I was in Rajya Sabha
Yeah.
and I didn't get a chance to see it. I saw some highlights. And again, I don't want to get into advising him. And this is the past now for me. What the Congress does going forward, I've moved on. And as I said, I wish them well and I wish the opposition
Do
well.
you meet cordially?
I meet everyone cordially. Whoever's cordial to me, I'm cordial to them. If someone's hostile to me, I can give it back to somebody. And so I believe I've always been a consensus builder. I always believe that India as I said in my speech last week, there's much more that unites us, regardless of our political differences, than divides us. And I think if every politician in this country said that to themselves as a mantra, I think India would be a very different country.
You say there's much more that unites us. A few guests that we've had, they say that India is like a union of states. We are very, very different from each other. What do you think unites us?
I think regardless of whether you're from West Bengal or from Maharashtra or from Tamil Nadu or from Uttar Pradesh or from Jammu and Kashmir, regardless of whether you're a party on the left or a party on the right, regardless of your economic, social, political views, I do believe that ultimately every single person wants India to succeed. Certain people have regional aspirations in mind. Certain people have only national aspirations in mind. Even those that are national parties cannot ignore the regional aspirations. A national party cannot ignore the regional aspirations of Maharashtra. They cannot ignore the regional aspirations of the Northeast.
Yeah.
They cannot ignore the regional aspirations of Tamil Nadu, for example. So that wanting India to succeed, in my opinion, is what unites us. We differ, but if we are willing to listen to the other point of view, I think that is something we can build on. I think the second thing that unites us, and I see this more so now in the last 15, 20 years, is every state government, regardless of which party is in power, regional or national party, regardless of which side of the aisle of the political spectrum they're from, they all want business to come to their state.
Yeah.
And I see that. There is competitive federalism, akin to what I see of competitive federalism in Europe or in the US, which is very healthy, where, if California doesn't want to bring in a Tesla factory, another state does. And that is what I'm seeing in India also. That's a good sign. It's a good sign that state governments are now saying, we will give you land, we have a good workforce, we have good infrastructure, we have good electricity, we have good highways, roads, railway networks, and we want you to come and invest in India and in our state. So these are two things I'm hopeful about, that I think that where I think we can be united and take the country forward.
You've also spoken a lot about climate change. If you can elaborate a bit on that, what are you doing about it? How do you put your weight behind that cause?
Yeah. I think climate change is something which is a reality today in our society. And we see in India, we see heat waves and then we see severe floods. We see this happening in other parts of the world as well. How do you tackle climate change? How do you convert climate change from a challenge into an opportunity? That is essentially what I believe is an opportunity for India. So for instance, one level somebody will say, oh, we have very aggressive carbon targets to be net zero by the year 2070. That means we are going to have to, as we green our economy, we will make energy prices more expensive. Today, if I look at countries around the world, if I look at Europe, if I look at the US, their green economies in many countries create more jobs than their fossil fuel economies do. So it's a misconception that the green economy, for instance, is bad for jobs. The green economy attracts more investments.
Okay.
And there's a lot that we can do in terms of policy. We can, for instance, I believe we can develop, innovate, and own the technologies of the future that will enable countries to green their economies. For example, green hydrogen. I spoke in my last week's speech about a small crop, seaweed, which has huge green benefits. Seaweed.
Okay.
Grown abundantly in the ocean. The Japanese have been eating it for centuries.
Yeah.
And they have the highest life expectancy. So we know it's a good food, it's a healthy food. It also absorbs twice as much of carbon dioxide in the oceans than trees do on land. It can be used as a biostimulant and replace chemical fertilizers, an organic fertilizer. If it's mixed with fodder and fed to livestock in a country like ours where we have a lot of livestock, we're the largest dairy producer in the world, it cuts methane gas emissions from cows and sheep and buffalo. So these are things that we can use to develop, but at the same time,
the focus is not there, you think?
Sorry?
The focus is not on alternate.
No, I would say there is some focus, but there's more attention that's needed. The government, to be fair, are using what they call production-linked incentives, where they're incentivizing the greening of India's economy. They are encouraging companies to invest in offshore wind energy, in solar energy, in green hydrogen. They are also encouraging companies to invest in electric vehicles. They're also incentivizing you and me as potential car buyers to buy electric cars versus diesel or petrol cars. So government is doing a good job, but to be fair, we're about 10 to 15 years late. The green transition should have begun 20 years ago. And but we are catching up pretty rapidly. And I really believe that the greening of our economy will be a significant boost to our economic growth and prosperity.
Okay. My last question is that you just met the PM recently. What was his message? What was communicated for the party?
Yeah, we met the Prime Minister, as a party unit, and there were 7 MPs from the Lok Sabha, me from the Rajya Sabha. We have a union minister as well. Essentially, we were talking about Maharashtra. We were talking about the fact that the economic survey is very positive in Maharashtra. We're doing well. We need more central hand-holding, more central support. The Prime Minister has been very supportive of Maharashtra in the last 10 years, and we certainly need more investment, more central support to make Maharashtra even more robust and its economy more, cutting edge, more innovative, to create more jobs. So just had a very casual conversation about that. Today, in fact, the Prime Minister addressed all the NDA MPs. There also he spoke about being constructive, using Parliament as a forum inside the House, outside the House, to do more for the development of your constituency, of the state, and ultimately of the nation. A parliamentarian's job is not just to raise issues relating to Mumbai or Maharashtra, it's to talk about the country. You can talk on foreign policy. Foreign policy has nothing to do with Mumbai or Delhi. It affects the entire country. You can talk
You've been quite active in that department, right? You and your father in the foreign relations department.
Sure. I mean, I would say in track to diplomacy, if you will. And we in terms of building relations with people from different parts of the world, using those relationships to India's advantage, regardless of which party is in power. My father worked very well when he was a Congress MP with Vajpayee ji, with Deve Gowda ji, with this Prime Minister, certainly with Dr. Manmohan Singh. And his philosophy was very simple, that the party is a medium through which you have the ability to serve the people. But ultimately your goal, before serving the party, before serving yourself, before serving your state, is to serve the country. And if there's a conflict between your party and serving the country must prevail. And he always was very clear about that. There was no ambiguity in his mind whatsoever about that, which is why he was able to cut across the aisle and work with people on the other side to do good things for the country.
All right. Thank you, Milind. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, and all the best for your upcoming sessions.
Thank you.
If you liked the episode, do not forget to share it, and also like, share, and subscribe to all our socials. They are listed below.